Mangalacharanam. अखिल रसामृत मूर्ति प्रसृमर रुचिरुद्ध तारकापालि फलितश्यामा ललितो राधा प्रेयान् विधुर्जयति. Welcome all to today's class. So, we have discussed the first verse of the second chapter of the first part of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where it was described that Bhakti has three divisions: Sadhana-bhakti, Bhava-bhakti, and Prema-bhakti. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami goes deep into sadhana bhakti. What is it? Tatra sadhana bhakti. Okay. So now regarding the sadhana bhakti, it is said. So this is the verse composed by Rupa Goswami. Kruti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana bhidha nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. This is the second verse. So, what is sadhana bhakti? We translated in English as bhakti in the stage of practice. But what does it actually mean? So, he says that bhakti is called sadhana bhakti if it is accomplished with one's activities, physical actions, actions of one's senses, one's ears, eyes, hands, legs. When one's bodily senses are used in acts of devotion to Krishna, and the purpose of those acts of devotion is to attain bhava for Krishna, to attain loving feelings for Krishna, then that kind of bhakti is called sadhana bhakti, bhakti in practice. Okay? So, again I'll explain. There are two characteristics which make a practice of, which make one's engagement in bhakti as sadhana bhakti. It is kriti sadhya. It is accomplished through one's actions with one's senses. And the purpose of those actions of the senses in devotion is to attain loving feelings for Krishna. Then, when these two conditions are met, that kind of bhakti is called sadhana bhakti. Okay. So then he clarifies, what is this bhava? Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. What do you mean you want to attain that bhava? So he clarifies that bhava, loving feeling for Krishna, is nitya siddha. It is existing eternally in the eternal associates of Krishna. Okay. The devotees of Bhagavan Sri Hari in Vaikuntha, in Goloka, they have love for him that is ever existent in them. So this bhava that is ever existent in the hearts of his devotees in Vaikuntha and Goloka, when that bhava manifests itself in the heart of the one who is engaging in sadhana bhakti, that is called attaining the bhava. Sadhyata. What do you mean that you want to develop bhava or attain bhava? It means the bhava that already exists, it appears in your heart, manifests in your heart. That is what it means by attaining the bhava. The commentaries will clarify why this point needed to be made. Okay. So, Jiva Goswami comments on this verse. Pratiti. सामान्यतो लक्षितोत्तमा भक्तिः कृत्या इंद्रिय प्रेरणया साध्या चेत् सा साधनाभिधा भवति. There should not be a full stop here, no danda here. The bhakti that was defined in general in the previous adhyaya, in the previous chapter. What was the definition of bhakti given? So is that अन्याभिलाषिता शून्यं ज्ञानकर्माद्यनावृतम् आनुकूल्येन कृष्णानुशीलनं भक्तिरुत्तमा uttama bhakti, highest bhakti. Pure devotion is that which is without any other desire, which is not covered by karma and jnana, which is of the nature of favorable application and cultivation in relation to Krishna. Okay, that is called Uttama Bhakti, pure devotion. So this pure devotion, when it is accomplished by the actions of one's own senses, then it is called Sadhana-bhakti, bhakti in practice. So then there would be a doubt. You say bhakti is accomplished with one's senses. You mean that senses, the senses help in the generation of bhakti. So bhakti is the activity of the senses, you said. That is sadhana bhakti, bhakti in practice. So you mean that bhakti is created by the senses, because bhakti is the action of the senses. So you mean bhakti is done by the senses. So senses are the ones, including one's mind. One's mind and senses are the instruments by which one generates bhakti, sadhana bhakti. Is that what you mean? So Jiva Goswami clarifies that's not the idea here. The activities of the senses by which sadhana bhakti is accomplished, the activities of the senses are also bhakti. They are not separate from bhakti. Kritya tadantarbhavascha पूर्वक्रियायाः यच्यांतरभाववत् तत्र भावाद्यनुभावरूपाया व्यवच्छेदार्थमाह साध्यो भाव प्रेमादिरूपो ययासा न तु भावसिद्धा. The actions of one's senses are included in bhakti itself. They are devotion itself. They are the expressing of one's devotion to Krishna. They are nothing different from the devotion to Krishna. Okay? So he gives an example, just as if someone wants to conduct a yajna, a Vedic sacrifice, then for that, before the actual sacrifice begins, by the Brahmanas chanting the mantras and so on, before that, a lot of arrangements are made. Many ingredients are acquired. That yajna kunda, that sacrificial altar, is constructed, and various items are brought, arrangements are made. And then the actual yajna begins. So the preparations for the yajna are also counted as being a part of the yajna itself. The preparation of the yajna that happens before the yajna begins, that is actually the part of that very yajna itself. It is not different from that yajna. In the same way, the actions of one's senses in application to Krishna, you say kriti sadhya, the bhakti which is accomplished by the senses. So the actions of the senses happens first, and then bhakti is accomplished. That would be the idea of the opponent, the Purva Paksha. But here Jiva Goswami clarifies that the actions of the senses are counted as bhakti itself. They are included in bhakti itself. Just as the actions of arranging for the yajna are also understood to be a part of the yajna and not separate from the yajna. Okay? So in this way, whatever actions of the senses we do, hearing the names of Krishna, hearing the qualities and activities of Krishna from the devotees of Krishna, okay, seeing the beautiful forms of Sri Krishna in his temple, cleaning the temple of Krishna, doing worship of Krishna. These are accomplished by one's eyes, ears, hands, and so forth. So, the activities of the senses, of the eyes, of the ears, and the hands, they are affecting bhakti, you say. They are accomplishing sadhana bhakti, they are accomplishing your practice of devotion. But the idea is that the activities of the senses are those very acts of devotion. They are not different from practicing bhakti. They are not different from sadhana bhakti. So, applying the ears in hearing about Krishna, applying the eyes in seeing Krishna's forms, applying the speech in speaking of Krishna, applying the hands in worshipping Krishna, those very actions are included in devotional practice. They are not different from sadhana bhakti itself. Okay. Anyone has any doubt or question so far? Okay. तत्र भावाद अनुभाव रूपायाः व्यवच्छेदात्. Okay. Now, in order to separate the higher levels of bhakti, like bhava bhakti, prema bhakti, and so on, okay, which are having various anubhavas. Anubhavas means the actions of the senses. They happen as a reaction of one's heart, of one's devotional heart for Krishna. For example, a devotee of Krishna who has actually attained the stage of bhava, a stage of loving feeling for Krishna, he utters or she utters the names of Krishna not just with his or her senses, but it is the feeling of love for Krishna in the heart of that devotee which motivates that devotee to utter the names of Krishna in love for him. So their acts of uttering the names of Krishna, their acts of seeing the form of Krishna in his temples, their acts of hearing Krishna's katha, their acts of cleaning the temple of Krishna, all of the acts of those who have attained loving feelings for Krishna, their such acts arise from their love for Krishna. On the contrary, a person who has not attained that stage of devotion, his acts of devotion arise from the instructions of the Shastra, from the instructions of the Guru, and from proper judgment based on those instructions. And then such a devotee engages his senses in serving Krishna. So there is a very big difference in this case. The physical acts of devotion of a devotee who has not attained love for Krishna, they are done just because he knows that this is the right thing to do and I want to attain love for Krishna and this is the right way to attain it. He does not really have that pure love for Krishna because that is not the reason why he is worshipping Krishna. That is not the reason why he is hearing about Krishna. He is hearing about Krishna, worshipping Krishna with the hope that Krishna will be satisfied with his worship and he will bless me with pure love towards him. That is the idea. On the contrary, the loving devotee, his acts, physical acts of service to Krishna arise from his love for Krishna. So, to differentiate those acts of devotion and separate them from sadhana bhakti, separate them from devotion in practice, Rupa Goswami uses the word sadhya bhava. Sadhyo bhavo premadi rupo yayasa. So, sadhana bhakti, devotion in practice, is that which is accomplished with one's senses, and the goal of which is to attain loving feeling for Krishna. That is the goal. Okay? So, in this way, Rupa Goswami differentiates the loving feelings of Krishna from bhakti in practice. The acts of bhakti done in loving feelings for Krishna are not bhakti in practice, are not sadhana bhakti. So he differentiates these two things in this way. Natu bhava siddha. The activities of devotion are in the stage of bhava are accomplished by one's bhava, by one's loving feelings. They are not technically the actions of one's senses only. The senses are just a means to express your love for Krishna in that stage of bhava. On the contrary, in the stage of sadhana bhakti, in the stage of devotion in practice, your activities of serving Krishna with your senses are not the expressions of your love for Krishna, because you don't have that pure love for Krishna. They are the expressions of the obedience to the instructions of the Shastras. They are the expressions of faith in Krishna that this is the right thing to do. This is the highest thing to be do that I can be engaged in. Okay, this is the highest path of the ultimate welfare. This is the faith. Based on this faith, one engages in the acts of devotion in the stage of practice. Okay, so that is different. And the physical acts of devotion done at the stage of bhava, they are sadhya. They are perfected acts. They are not practicing acts of devotion. Any questions someone has here? Any doubts? Okay. Sahi तदंगत्वात् साध्य रूपा एव इति साध्य भावा इत्यनेन सा साध्य पुमर्थान्तरा परिहृता उत्तमाया एवोपक्रान्तत्वात्. So that devotion, the acts of devotion that are done out of loving feelings, because they are done out of loving feelings, they are sadhya rupa only. They are of the nature of perfection. Sadhya. You have attained that perfected stage. So whatever follows after bhava, it is all perfected bhakti, like higher stages, prema bhakti, then comes sneha, raga, and pranaya, mana, and all these things. These are all the levels of perfected devotion only. Then he says, sadhya bhava ityanena sa sadhya pumarthantara parihrita. Rupa Goswami has used the word sadhya bhava, and by this he has excluded any other objective, any other aim for one's physical acts of devotion. The activities of one's senses by which one serves Krishna. The aim of those actions should be to attain loving feelings for Krishna. Okay? Nothing else should be the aim of those actions in the stage of practice. So, sadhya pumarthantara parihrita. Rupa Goswami has excluded any other purushartha, any other objective of attainment, mukti, liberation from birth and death, should not be one's goal to be attained by one's acts of devotion in practice. Kama, okay, sense pleasure should not be the goal of one's engagement in the acts of devotion. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha should not be the goal which one aspires for through one's acts of devotion to Krishna in practice. It is the goal of one's acts of devotion in the stage of practice should only be attaining bhava, loving feelings for Krishna. Okay? Bhavasya sadhyatva uttamāyāh eva upakrantatvat. Why is that so? Why should we understand as such? Because we are discussing about Uttama Bhakti only. It is the whole topic of this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is Uttama Bhakti, highest form of devotion, that is pure devotion to Krishna. And the definition of pure devotion we have already seen. It is done without any other desire. It is done with the desire only to please Krishna. No other desire. So, because of that, we have to understand that the Sadhya Bhava also means that the acts of devotion and practice should have only loving feelings for Krishna as one's objective to be attained by those acts. Nothing else should be one's aspiration while engaging in devotion to Krishna at the stage of practice. Does anyone have a question or doubt? Okay. भावस्य साध्यत्वे कृत्रिमत्वात् पुरुषार्थत्वाभावस्यात् इति आशंक्य आह नित्ये. So now, Rupa Goswami said that bhava is the sadhya, bhava is the thing to be attained by sadhana bhakti. Loving feelings for Krishna should be one's goal. So you say that loving feelings for Krishna are attained through the practice of sadhana bhakti. Through sadhana bhakti, you want to attain bhava for Krishna. Then, because bhava is a thing that is sadhya, that is to be attained, it means that it gives the sense that bhava is not there, and by your engagement in sadhana bhakti, bhava is created. Your practice of sadhana bhakti creates loving feelings for Krishna, and that's how you attain loving feelings for Krishna. That's what the opponent would consider that would be the argument of the Purva Paksha. If you say bhava bhakti is to be attained through sadhana bhakti, then it gives the sense that bhava bhakti did not exist earlier, and your acts of sadhana bhakti generated that loving feelings for Krishna in your heart. Okay? And in this way, that bhava, that loving feeling for Krishna, becomes a created phenomenon. Okay. So because it would be a created phenomenon, it would not be the parama purushartha. It cannot be the highest objective of attainment. It cannot be the sadhya. It cannot be the highest reality. Because we know from the Shastras that the highest reality is eternally existing. Highest reality exists eternally, and it manifests itself when it wishes. Okay? It manifests in front of us when it wishes. So, because this understanding implies that bhava could be a created entity. It cannot be the highest object of attainment of human life. So, expecting such a thought in the readers, Rupa Goswami has written the second half of this shloka. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. Okay, you can see here, Nitya siddhasya. The bhava is nitya siddha. The bhava is eternally existing. Okay. It is eternally existing in the hearts of Krishna's devotees in the Paravyoma, in Goloka. They are Nitya Siddha devotees. In the hearts of the Nitya Siddha devotees of Krishna, there is bhava for Krishna, there is prema for Krishna, love for him. So because these devotees of Krishna are eternally existing, love for Krishna is also eternally existing in their hearts. So that love for Krishna, which exists eternally in the hearts of his eternally liberated devotees, that manifests in the heart of the practitioner devotee in this material world. And the manifestation of that eternally existing loving feelings for Krishna in the heart of the practicing devotee is called the attainment of bhava, is called the accomplishment of bhava, sadhyatva. Okay? That is what it means, that bhava has appeared in the heart of the devotee. It is already existing in the eternal devotees of Krishna who are eternally liberated, and from their hearts it manifests in the heart of the practicing devotee in this world. Bhagavat Shakti Vritti Visheshatvena Agre Sadhaishyamanatvad iti bhav. Because Rupa Goswami later on in the third chapter of this first part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he will establish Bhava Bhakti. He will establish loving feelings for Krishna as the function of Krishna's Swarupa Shakti. Okay? He will establish that loving feelings for Krishna are a particular functioning, a particular action, particular type of manifestation of the eternal power of Krishna, of Bhagavan Shri Hari. So because Bhagavan Krishna and his Swarupa Shakti are almost the same, okay, they are, for all practical purposes, they are not different from each other. So for this it is necessary to understand the different types of Bhagavan Shri Hari's Shaktis. He has many unlimited Shaktis. He is the source of unlimited Shaktis, unlimited powers. And all his Shaktis are mainly classified into three categories: internal Shakti, external Shakti, and intermediate Shakti. Internal is his Swarupa Shakti, by which he manifests the bodies of his eternal associates. His Vaikuntha Dhama, Goloka Dhama is all manifest by that Shakti. External Shakti is that Shakti by which he manifests this world, the things of this world. This external Shakti is non-conscious. Internal Shakti is all-pervasive and all-powerful and omniscient, completely in knowledge of everything. And in between these two categories of Shaktis is the intermediate Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, which is constituted of all the jivas, all the individual living beings, the jivatmas, which are all atomic units of consciousness. So, the Swarupa Shakti of Krishna, the internal Shakti of Krishna, manifests itself in the heart of the devotee of Krishna in this world in the form of loving feelings for Krishna. Okay? So, Krishna blesses this devotee with his Swarupa Shakti in a particular form, because of which this devotee experiences loving feelings for Krishna. He attains bhava for Krishna. Okay? So, bhava for Krishna exists eternally, nitya siddha. It is already perfectly existing in its perfect form. It simply manifests itself, prakatyam, manifestation in the heart of the devotee. The manifestation of the eternally existing love for Krishna in the heart of the practicing devotee is called attainment of that love by that devotee. Is called accomplishing the love for Krishna. Okay? So bhakti is not a thing that can be generated by one's practices. All acts of bhakti, even in the stage of practice, are simply a manifestation of Krishna's Swarupa Shakti. It will be clarified in the third chapter of this very first part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Any question someone has? Any doubt? Okay. So that is Jiva Goswami's commentary on that shloka. Let's go to Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. कृतीति सा सामान्यतो लक्षितोत्तमा भक्तिः इन्द्रियव्यापारेण साध्या चेत् साधनाभिधा भवति अत्र इन्द्रियव्यापारस्य भक्त्यन्तर्भावः यागस्य पूर्वक्रियाया यथा यागान्तर्भावस्तथैव ज्ञेयः. He is just telling the same thing that Jiva Goswami had said, putting it in some different words. So, that pure bhakti, which was defined in the earlier chapter, when it is accomplished through the actions of one's senses, it is called Sādhana-bhakti. So here the actions of the senses are included within bhakti itself, just as the actions of arranging for the yajna is a part of yajna and not different from it. That's how it should be understood. तेन भक्तिभिन्नस्य न भक्तिजनकत्वमिति सिद्धान्तोऽपि सङ्गच्छति. By this understanding, it is further confirmed. It is further confirmed that a thing that is different from bhakti cannot lead to the manifestation of bhakti. Only bhakti can give you bhakti. Something that is not bhakti can never give you bhakti. Okay? For example, if I want to purchase ice cream and eat ice cream, I need to work and earn some money and save that money. That money with that money I can go to a shop, give to the shopkeeper and purchase the ice cream. And then I can eat that ice cream. So, ice cream is attained by you by something other than the ice cream. You use money for purchasing the ice cream. Okay, you got the ice cream. How? With the money you have. Okay? So then somebody may say, I got bhakti. Okay, you got bhakti. How did you get bhakti? There is no answer like I got bhakti through something other than bhakti, because you got ice cream through the money. Money is not the ice cream. Ice cream is not the money. Money is different from the ice cream. So something different is employed to get something else. But you cannot get bhakti by something different from bhakti. You cannot get bhakti for Krishna through a particular entity that is not bhakti for Krishna. It sounds a circular argument, but it is not. So the pure devotees of Krishna, they take compassion, they show compassion on the suffering people in this world, and they try to enlighten them and inspire them to engage in devotion to Krishna. So it is the devotion in the hearts of these devotees which moves their heart out of compassion for us, for the suffering people in this world. And they instruct us in bhakti. So bhakti in the heart of the devotee caused him to be compassionately disposed to us and instruct us in bhakti. So devotion for Krishna in the heart of the great devotee was the cause of us getting devotion for Krishna. Cause of bhakti is bhakti itself. Devotion is caused by devotion itself. It is not caused by a thing different from devotion. In the same way, the acts of the senses by which one engages in sadhana bhakti, those acts of the senses are included as bhakti. They are included in sadhana bhakti. They are not different from sadhana bhakti. Okay? Because you do sadhana bhakti through the senses. Okay, you are doing sadhana bhakti through the senses, through employing your senses. So the employment of your senses is not anything different from sadhana bhakti. It is included in sadhana bhakti. So bhakti is leading to bhakti. Bhakti is not caused by something that is different from its self. Any doubts here? Any questions? Yes, okay. अत्र भावभक्तेरनुभावरूपस्य श्रवणकीर्तनादि साधनत्वव्यवहाराभावात् तद्वारणाय आह साध्यभाव इति। साध्यो भावो यया सा भावजनिका इत्यर्थः। तेन धर्मार्थादिपुरुषार्थान्तरसाधकभक्तिश्च पराकृता उत्तमाया एव उपक्रान्तत्वात्। Same thing as Jiva Goswami's commentary. So the acts of the senses, such as hearing about Krishna, uttering his name, seeing the form of Krishna in the temple, cleaning his temple, worshipping him, these acts of devotion with the senses, in the stage of bhava, okay, they cannot be called as sadhana bhakti. They cannot be considered as bhakti in the stage of practice. So in order to exclude those actions of one's senses which are done out of loving feelings for Krishna, he says, sadhya bhava. Sadhana bhakti is that which is done with the senses and whose goal is to attain loving feelings for Krishna. So in this way, loving feelings for Krishna are actually excluded from the stage of sadhana bhakti. They are the goal. They are the goal of sadhana bhakti. They are not sadhana bhakti. Okay. So sadhana bhakti is that which is bhava janika, which creates, which gives birth to loving feelings for Krishna. Okay. So by this dharmarthadi purushantara sadhaka bhaktischa parakrita. Because bhakti, sadhana bhakti should be sadhya bhava, because the goal of devotion in practice should be attaining loving feelings for Krishna. By this, any other form of bhakti which aims at attaining dharma, artha, kama or moksha, religiosity means punya, you want some pious merit, or you want to attain some money, some property, or you want to satisfy your senses, or you want to attain liberation from this world. If you have any of these objectives of your acts of devotion to Krishna, then that is not called sadhana-bhakti. That cannot be considered as bhakti in practice, because we are considering the topic of uttama bhakti, pure devotion. Pure devotion does not have any other desire than to just serve Krishna. That's all. Okay. भावादीनां साध्यत्वे कृत्रिमत्वात् परमपुरुषार्थत्वा भावस्यादित्याशंका नित्यति, same as Jiva Goswami. भावस्य इति उपलक्षणं श्रवणकीर्तनादयोपि ग्राह्याः तेषामपि कर्णजिह्वादौ प्राकट्यमात्रं यथा श्रीकृष्णो वसुदेवगृहे अवततार भक्तीनां भगवच्छक्तिवृत्तिविशेषत्वेन अग्रे साधयिष्यमाणत्वादिति भावः. So it is said that the bhava, loving feelings for Krishna, that are eternally existing in the devotees of Krishna who are eternally liberated in his own loka, that nitya siddha bhava, that already existing bhava, manifests in the heart of the practicing devotee, and that is called accomplishing that bhava by that devotee. Okay, that refutes that bhava is a created entity. No, it is not. It is already existing in its perfected stage. Now here, Vishwanath Chakravarti also comments that nitya siddhasya bhavasya, bhava is said to exist eternally. It is just an upalakshanam. It is just an indication of all other things regarding bhakti, all other facets of bhakti, like hearing about Krishna, uttering his names, seeing his form, cleaning his temples, worshipping him. All these acts of devotion are also existing eternally. Okay? Just as loving feelings for Krishna exist eternally, these acts of devotion for Krishna, such as hearing about him, speaking about him, and all these things, they also exist eternally. They simply manifest themselves in the ears of the devotee, and on the tongue of the devotee, in the eyes of the devotee, and so forth. Because these acts of the senses, they are bhakti. They are bhakti. Because they are bhakti, they are of a spiritual nature, of a nature of consciousness and bliss, of eternity. Bhakti is not a product of this world. Bhakti cannot be created by one's senses. So, bhakti exists eternally in all its forms. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and all these forms of bhakti exist forever. They simply manifest in the senses of a devotee in this world. So here, Jiva Goswami just gives an example. Vishwanath Chakravarti gives an example. Just as Shri Krishna himself descended in the prison cell where Vasudeva and Devaki were living. He appeared there. Okay, that was called his birth. Birth of Krishna does not mean that Krishna was created. No. Birth of Krishna means that Krishna, who is eternally existing, he manifested himself in front of the eyes of Vasudeva and Devaki and all the people in the world. In the same way, bhakti for Krishna is not created by one's senses and by one's endeavor. Bhakti for Krishna is existing eternally. It simply manifests in the form of one's acts of hearing of Krishna, one's seeing Krishna, and so forth. This is a very important point. It has a philosophical implications. That's why. So, Bhaktinam Bhagavad Shakti Vritti Visheshatvena Agre Sadhayishmanata. And that is also because Rupa Goswami will, in the next chapter, establish that the various acts of devotion to Krishna, hearing about him, speaking about him, bowing down to him, thinking of him. All these acts of devotion to Krishna, they are particular manifestations of Krishna's own internal Shakti, Swarupa Shakti. He will show that in the coming chapter. Any questions here? Any doubts?
Sorry if I missed the point about the sadhana bhakti. If the bhakti is eternally existing, then how does the sadhana bhakti help? Is it not taking us to the bhava bhakti?
Yes, sadhana bhakti takes you to bhava bhakti. Yes, that is there. But sadhana bhakti is bhakti. Bhava bhakti is also bhakti. So bhakti is taking you to bhakti. You cannot attain bhava bhakti without bhakti. So it is sadhana bhakti leading to bhava bhakti. Okay? And the bhakti that was eternally existing in the hearts of the devotees. So because of their devotion, they were moved to instruct you how you should also know about Krishna, understand him and serve him and so forth. So based on their instructions and your faith in them, which you were received through associating with them, you then started engaging in sadhana bhakti, devotion in practice, and slowly you are progressing on that path. So devotion in the hearts of those devotees led to the manifestation of devotion to Krishna in your heart, because of which you engaged in the practices of sadhana bhakti, which will then lead to bhava bhakti in your heart. And that's the sequence.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Does anyone else have a doubt? Okay. So then Rupa Goswami says, Sa bhakti saptamaskandhe bhangya devarashinodita. This bhakti is stated by Devarshi Narada in the seventh skandha of Srimad Bhagavata through the bhangi. Bhangi means with a literary device. Okay, so let's see what is that. So in the seventh skandha, first chapter, 31st verse, Sri Narada says to Yudhishthira, Tasmat kenapyupayena manah krishne niveshayet. Let's see this. Thirty-one. It is 37. Some strange Devanagari. It's in advanced view. Ah, 32 actually. It should be 32. There is some problem in the printing here. 7132. So Narada Muni was speaking about various ways in which one's mind can be absorbed in Krishna. And when the mind is absorbed in Krishna, it the mind leads one to attain Krishna. So the gopis absorb their mind in Krishna uh, because of their karma, because of their intense desire to satisfy Krishna. Okay, their love is called kama because it bears a lot of resemblance with the worldly sexual desire. So that is totally opposite which gopis were experiencing for Krishna. So Bhayat Kamsa absorbed his mind in Krishna out of fear for Krishna. So, Shishupal and others, their minds were absorbed in Krishna because of hatred for Krishna. The Vrishnis, the Yadavas, their minds were absorbed in Krishna because they are the family members of Krishna and they love him because of that, as such. And you, dear Yudhishthira and all you Pandavas, you have absorbed your minds in Krishna out of love for Krishna, sneha, out of affection for him. And we, Narada is speaking about himself and other such sages and such devotees like himself. Our minds are absorbed in Krishna because of bhakti, engagement in devotion to Krishna. Then in 32 he says, Katamopi na vena syat panchanam purusham prati tasmat kenapyupayena manah krishne niveshale. Only Vena, who was so wicked, he did not absorb his mind in Krishna. Therefore, dear Yudhishthira, one should fix one's mind in Krishna through any means. Through any means. So you can fix your mind in Krishna like the gopis, like Kansa, like Shishupala, like the Yadavas, like Pandavas, or like Narada and others. So that would imply that Kamsa and Shishupala are who are asuras. Their acts, their minds being absorbed in Krishna would also be counted as devotion to Krishna. Okay? So that is not what Narada intends to say in these verses, and that is what the commentators clarify here. So Jiva Goswami comments here. The whole verse is okay. The 25th verse of this chapter. Yatha Vairānubandhena Tasmad Vairan. No, 26th verse. Tasmad Vairānubandhena nirvairena bhayena va snehat kamena vayunjat kathanjin nekshate prathak. Therefore, whether one is connected with Krishna out of enmity or because of fear or because of affection or because of immense love and attraction, all of them give the same result. So one's mind cannot be absorbed in Krishna through devotion as much it is absorbed in Krishna through enmity. Tanmayatamaya. So they say this is a description about 27th verse is a different topic about Vedic Bhakti and Raga Bhakti, which is different. So our Jiva Goswami has quoted this verse and he says that Bhayadveshavapi vihitau tarhi tavapi bhakti syatam yadi syatam tadanukulyena iti visheshana virodhasya tatraha bhangeti. So Narada Muni has said that one should absorb one's mind in Krishna through any of these means. Kenapipayena manah Krishna niveshayet. You can through enmity, through hatred, or through affection, or through love, or through relationship and anything. So, if Narada Muni says that fear and hatred should be applied in Krishna, you should be afraid of Krishna, or you should be hateful of Krishna, then and you should absorb your mind in Krishna because of those emotions, then they, like fear and hatred for Krishna, would also be included in devotion for Krishna, bhakti. And if fear for Krishna, if fear from Krishna and hate for Krishna, if they are also included as devotion for Krishna, then the definition of pure bhakti which you gave earlier, anukulyena krishnanushilanam, favorable cultivation in relation with Krishna, that favorability aspect. Okay. So you are not favorable if you are afraid of Krishna. Then you are thinking that Krishna is against you. So you are not pleasing Krishna, but you are against Krishna. And if you think that Krishna is your enemy, then you are also not in the same group of Krishna. You are against Krishna because you consider him as his enemy. So you will not be favorable to Krishna, and thus your engagement of your mind in Krishna would not be devotion or pure devotion to Krishna. So how would you reconcile that? So then Jiva Goswami says that's why Rupa Goswami has used the word bhangya iti. Okay? Sa bhakti saptama skandhe bhangya devarhinodita. Devarshi Narada has said about this bhakti, sadhana bhakti, in the form of a bhangi, in the form of a rhetorical device. Let's see how is that? यः खलु भयद्वेषयोरपि मङ्गलं विदधीत तस्मिन्नपि को वा परमपामरो भक्तिं न कुर्वीत प्रत्युत तौ विदधीत इति परिपाट्या इत्यर्थः. The implication of Narada Muni's statement in the Srimad Bhagavata is that Krishna, who even bestows auspiciousness to those who absorb their minds in him out of fear for him and hate for him, he does good for them, he never does bad for them. So, on knowing this, who is that extremely sinful person who would not engage in bhakti to Krishna? Okay? So, this is the implication of Narada Muni's understanding. This is the paripati. This is the understanding which he wants to bring out from this. युञ्ज्यादिति तु सम्भावनायामेव लिङ्विधानात् न तु विधौ भयद्वेषयोर्विधातुम् अशक्यत्वात्. Okay? Yunjat. Also, the word used here is yunjat, means one, it is the vidhiling form of the dhatu yud. Vidhiling has different meanings. So here, the meaning of yunjat is not an instruction that one should engage one's mind through enmity in Krishna. One should engage one's mind through fear in Krishna. One should engage one's mind out of love for Krishna, out of kama for Krishna. That is not in the sense of instruction. It is in the sense of possibility, potentiality, sambhavana. Sambhavanayameva ling vidhanat, natu vidho. It is not an instruction. So, for one, in the sense of potentiality. So, if one should engage one's mind in Krishna out of enmity for him, if one should engage one's mind out of fear for Krishna, if one should engage one's mind in Krishna out of affection for him, and so forth, okay? All of them attain welfare. So it is in the sense of sambhavana, potentiality, not in the sense of instruction that one should engage one's mind. So therefore it refutes that point that Narada Muni is not telling one to engage one's mind in Krishna out of fear for him, out of hatred for him, or anything else. He is just counting and thinking about these emotions in relation with Krishna. Also, bhayadveshayor vidhatum ashakyatvat. You cannot enjoin or ordain someone to be afraid of something. You cannot order someone to be hateful of something or someone. Okay? These are emotions that are not ordered to be present in someone. Okay, you can order someone to serve Krishna and chant his names and worship him and bow down to him. But the emotional aspect, that cannot be instructed. Vidhatum ashakyatva. It is impossible. It is not possible to give an instruction to someone to be fearful of something. Okay. Or you cannot give an instruction to hate someone. These emotions develop in due course of time by one's exposure to those things and one's experiences with those respective things. Okay. These emotions cannot develop just by someone's instructing us to feel like that. Okay, you should be afraid of this, or you should hate this. No, it is impossible to instruct someone in that way. So therefore, Narada Muni is not instructing anyone to absorb one's mind in Krishna out of hatred for him or out of fear for him. Okay. यद्यपि श्रीकृष्णपरमेव इदं वाक्यं तथापि तदंशादौ च तारतम्येन च. Although this shloka is regarding Shri Krishna specifically, Narada speaks about how Shishupala, Kamsa, and Yudhishthira, and Yadavas, and he himself are related with Krishna, and the gopis are related with Krishna. He is speaking about Krishna, but also this idea can be applied to other manifestations of Shri Krishna, such as Shri Narayana, Shri Rama, Shri Narasimha, Vamana, Kurma, Matsya, all other avatars. Taratamyana Chayam. And they can be applied with the due gradations in relation to those various forms of Krishna, because in case of, for example, in case of Vamana avatar, there are no devotees like the gopis who absorb their minds in Vamana, in that emotion. So that will not be included in that consideration. So according to the manifestation, you should adjust these considerations. Okay. Any questions? Someone has any doubts? Okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti. Say, first part is same as Jiva Goswami's commentary. Tayor bhaktitva svikare anukulyane visheshana virodhasya tat kartari asurepi bhakti vyavaharapatyeshcha iti bhangya iti yakhalu bhayadvesha kartrinam api mangalam karoti tasmin ishvare ko va parama pamaro bhaktim na purvita pratyuta bhayadvesho vidadhita iti bhangya paripatya devarhina uktam. So same as Jiva Goswami. So who is that person who, on knowing that Krishna does good for the person who hates him and who is afraid of him, on knowing this, who is that extremely sinful person who would not engage in Krishna's bhakti? Okay. So in this manner, Devarshi Narada is saying that one should engage in his bhakti. Okay. There is all the more reason to engage in devotion to Krishna, because he even does good for those who hate him and are afraid of him. So he is so kind, he is so magnanimous, he is so supremely merciful. So there is no reason why you should not be devoted to him, because he is so merciful, so kind. Okay. Any doubts, any questions here? Okay. So let us end our class here for today. And we'll meet again next week. Thank you so much for participating.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you.
Radhe
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.